Quick question. What is freedom of speech for if you get arrested for protesting war? Because that's exactly what happened in Grand Rapids when a 22-year-old preschool teacher was put in handcuffs for saying that the invasion of Venezuela by the US was undefensible. My name is Mason. I'm a progressive political commentator, and I've partnered with Courier to talk about today's most important news. I've been told all my life that America is the shining example of freedom. We are a bastion of freedom of speech. We represent what government should look like across the world when it comes to giving citizens the ability to criticize their government. It's our foundational principle. That is why we revolted against Britain. It's because we wanted to empower our citizens to be able to call out bad decisions made by their own government without any fear of retaliation. We're not like these backwards countries like Russia or North Korea that punishes political dissent. We are not this dystopian society that is shown in movies where we will jail somebody just for having the wrong opinion. No, of course not. We believe in freedom of speech. You can say almost anything as long as you're not endangering others. And you should be allowed to say that regardless of where you are. Unless apparently you're a 22-year-old preschooler who is criticizing the government's actions through an illegal occupation of Venezuela. So Jessica Plichta is a teacher in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and also a local anti-war activist that started the group Opponents of War Grand Rapids. She's not a career politician. She's not a celebrity. She's not an armed, dangerous, violent criminal. She is just like every other American, a woman who happens to be a teacher who decided to protest an unjust war.
Just moments after an interview with 13 on Your Side.
And as soon as the light to the camera shut off, two police officers came up behind me and said, "Put your hands on your head, you're under arrest." I am not resisting arrest.
No, you're not resisting arrest.
I'm not resisting arrest. I'm going peacefully.
Organizer Jessica Plichta was arrested for failure to obey a lawful order of a police officer after marching in the streets of Grand Rapids against U.S. actions in Venezuela on January 3rd.
They had me bend over the police car. They patted me down, removed my belongings, and then they put me back in the police car without buckling my seatbelt and drove me to Kent County Sheriff's Office, I believe. The jail.
Plichta says she was held there for 3 hours before being released.
I wasn't surprised, just disappointed.
She says she chose to remain silent after her arrest, but doesn't understand why GRPD has a large presence at these protests.
Why is Grand Rapids seem to be the only city in Michigan where protesting is illegal?
Now, I'm sure most would say, why was she held for 3 hours? What's the point of that? And the whole point is to show the example of what the government is able to do. We can show force, we can detain somebody if they even slightly don't fully obey or oblige to a trivial command. They claim that they arrested her because she was marching in the street. There were hundreds of people marching in the street. Why was she personally identified? Because she's one of the co-founders of the org. The protest that she helped organize was against the U.S. military operation in Venezuela, which resulted in the capture of the sitting president, Nicolas Maduro. This was a political protest. This is protected speech. It is a core democratic activity to participate in criticizing your own government's decisions. And the fact that she was singled out over everybody is showing that they're trying to make an example. This woman was being broadcast to live television. The police department in Grand Rapids wanted to show on live television that you should not be participating in these types of lawful assemblies. You should just allow your government to do as they please. Let's go over again the justification for why we're able to invade Venezuela. Almost all Western media shares the exact same narrative that Maduro is this evil dictator who punishes political dissent. If you don't say everything that is in line with the Venezuelan regime, Maduro will come to your house personally and he will put handcuffs on you and drag you to jail, right? You have to share all of the foreign policy takes of the Venezuelan regime. Otherwise, you will be seen as a political dissident and you will be punished accordingly. All of Western media seems to call that out and say that this is worthy of invasion. That's how evil it is. Surely that's not happening anywhere else, right? Surely we don't have 22-year-old preschool teachers who are being arrested for organizing protests against United States imperialism. Surely that would be called out, right? All Western media would have to criticize that. If there are communities organizing against ICE raids, if there are people in Minneapolis that are demanding accountability for somebody being murdered by an ICE agent, surely that should be called out. How are we supposed to be calling out other nations of punishing political dissent when we are doing that in our own borders? Are we the baddies? Can we point that out? An article from The Guardian investigated the incident in Grand Rapids and spoke to a man named Emerson Wolf, who is a co-director of the Grand Rapids Institute for Global Education and a chair of the Palestine Solidarity Grand Rapids group. He said that this is an established tactic of Grand Rapids Police Department to suppress local protests and intimidate protesters. If it's truly about the safety of people executing their sacred free speech rights in the streets of Grand Rapids, then why doesn't the Grand Rapids Police Department arrest protesters right away or do more to help encourage the safety of protesters downtown? Instead, they issue citations months later in order to criminalize dissent. Amid yesterday's ICE killing of Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis, thousands have taken to the streets in cities across the US to demonstrate. First, they arrest us on camera, then they shoot us in the street, Wolf said of protesters. This is unacceptable. We're living in a nightmare right now, and it's time for us to be escalating against this sort of brutality. This is not a new incident for anybody who's witnessed the pattern of how police treats people who are anti-war protesters. We saw the exact same tactics utilized against those that were anti-Vietnam demonstrators. Same with the protesters against the war in Iraq. If you question United States hegemony across the global order, you will be demonized. And law enforcement's main job is to protect the status quo, which means that if you are impeding the status quo, if you are dissenting against the government and you dissent too hard, which means your legs are in the street or you are with a group of 200 people as you are marching and demanding change from your government, you will be penalized. And while they can't penalize everybody, because we are stronger in numbers when we demonstrate together, they will pick and choose those that are seen as the organizers or the leaders. In this case, the victim was Jessica Plichta, who said, "We do not want war. We do not want the US to escalate its attacks on Venezuela. We don't want our friends and family to have to fight a rich man's war for oil." Jessica is a 22-year-old young woman, an educator, someone who is an anti-war advocate and is demanding change from her government so she doesn't see her fellow constituents go to war for oil. If you believe that her words deserve to put her in handcuffs, you are not a defender of free speech. Free speech is not just talking about the government when it's convenient. Speech is supposed to criticize power. It's supposed to galvanize anger and bring about change by organizing people around similar foundational principles. In this case, it is anti-war. It is about the United States imperialism needing to halt, and it is about making sure that we respect other nations' sovereignty so we do not put more American lives at risk. If political dissent and criticizing your government is seen as a threat, then that erodes the foundational principle of democracy, and that should scare anybody who cares.